just wanted to take a few minutes to share a few things with you. I was asked if I had relationships or things that I could share from a senior NCO. As a time, maybe I offered some advice, counsel to an officer. Could I share that? So I absolutely have quite a few stories that I can share, but this one I think has probably more lessons in it, if you will. So I found myself in Afghanistan as the command chief for the Air Expeditionary Task Force, working for Major General Cornish. And we spent the first 4 or 5 months together, and then we were kind of going through some rotations. Had an inbound individual that at the time didn't know it, but was going to serve as General Cornish's exec in aid camp. Individual wasn't overly excited about that position when they first got on the ground. So like any good leader, took the individual out to lunch and just had a conversation with him. And that conversation really went like, hey sir, there's opportunities and then there's opportunities. And what I mean by that is the individual had an opportunity that was career broadening, to where they would do something different, something a little bit outside their comfort zone, but really doing senior level correspondence for a 2-star officer. So that in and of itself is an opportunity. The second opportunity is they had the ability, because of a working relationship, to really pick the brain, get to know the general officer, understand how things tick, why they make decisions, why they do certain things that they're doing. And that relationship in of itself could pay dividends, big dividends for the officer along the way. Unfortunately, both opportunities in this case were not taken advantage of. Now, fast forward probably about a week, 10 days, we get a seasoned captain on the ground, and honestly, I take the captain out to lunch and we have the same conversation. I was like, hey ma'am, you have this thing called an opportunity that's presented before you, and then you have this opportunity, and shared the same 2 things that I shared with the major, and she took full advantage, kind of rocked out on the exec level job, keeping everything on task, and then doing all that senior level correspondence. Again, working for the senior Air Force commander in Afghanistan, that level of correspondence to see how things happen with mission operations, super impactful. So really rocked out on that. The second piece was really getting to know the general officer. The only thing I'll add that's in addition to getting to know him is, she worked out so well that when General Cornish moved on to his next assignment, which is 12th Air Force Commander, offered to take her to that position. Now that's another conversation for another day. As far as, did she take the opportunity? Did she not? I'll say she didn't. So there may have been an opportunity missed, but where she was going, what she wanted to do, what she saw in her future. So didn't take advantage of that opportunity, but really take that as a job. So the other piece that I'll share with you, during my time there, I would traditionally bring folks in, have conversations with them, because one thing that I always say is, or that I try to get across is with any conversation, there's a lesson, and there's lessons within this one that we'll discuss at the end. But the piece to this that I want to talk through is, it was the exec, it was the chief of staff, over colonel, myself. So we had a situation with a staff sergeant there that she thought certain tasks were above her pay grade, which in all actuality, the previous person conducting the task was a master sergeant. So not sure why she thought that, but had a personal agenda why she was over there as far as things that she wanted to get done and how she wanted to do it. Just didn't like the job that we offered her. Now, I have all this personal information or things about the story, but it came time to make a decision as far as what needed to happen. So I approached the commander, initially said, hey, I would like to bring in the chief of staff, and he's like, why, chief, you set me up? I was like, absolutely not, sir, not set you up. I said, but there's a lesson that I'd like to see come out of this. And he's like, okay. So he had no issues with me bringing him in. So as we went in, I laid the facts out as far as what would happen or what had happened, and what we thought would have been the right course of action. And then he asked the question, and oddly enough, it was a question that I told the chief of staff and the exec. I was like, his first question is going to be, what does the member want? And rightfully so, a lot of leaders will ask that question. So after that, what that did though, that it went from not just a fact-based conversation, but more of, here's some of the personal stuff, here's some of the personal agenda that's going on, and then how do we get to the end result? So after sharing that with them, we decided to move the member into a requirement that was not the task that was initially given to her at hand. The task that she thought was beneath her. Oddly enough, is the three of us, chief staff, exec, and myself, all three of us kind of were in agreement that the member needed to stay and execute the job that she was assigned. But when General Cornish made the decision to move her to a different requirement, it was important. It was important for them, the colonel and the exec, the captain, to see that. Although I didn't necessarily agree with the decision, I was going to execute. So that was the lesson there. So folks, that's my story, and then to kind of sum up the lessons from this. So the first one is opportunities. They typically don't come knocking when you want them. Sometimes they're not the opportunity that you want. But if you don't take advantage of the opportunity, you don't take the advantage to grow, you might not know what you're missing. In this situation, I truly believe that the major was presented an opportunity that he totally passed up and could have forged that relationship with the general officer, who I think, my personal opinion, will probably wear 4 stars one day. And if and when that happens, the major would have had a personal relationship with somebody that he could have leaned into to kind of help him out in his career. So folks, you never know when those opportunities are going to come knocking. The second one is really mission execution for senior NCOs, but really for everybody. When our senior commanders or when commanders make decisions, it's just time to execute. And I needed the colonel and I needed the captain at the time to see that despite my personal involvement and where I was tied to this story, when the general made the decision, I was going to execute, and we did just that. So folks, sometimes we get caught up in the commander should have made the decision X, Y, or Z and went that way. I'll typically tell you, as a chief, I definitely got to say. It doesn't always mean I get my way, but it's those perspectives that when they're joined together, we can make the best decisions for our Air Force and execute the mission. Folks, I hope you continue on with the conversations between senior NCOs and officers, because as those perspectives are joined together, it just only provides our leaders the best information that we can possibly have to make decisions. So wish you all the best. Hopefully you enjoy the story. If you want more of it, hit me up on email. I'll be sure to answer it. All right.
Howdy, I'm Colonel Ricky Mills, Commandant of Squadron Officer School, and I wanted to welcome you to Combined Ops Day. Something very significant that occurs every Friday, and that's down there at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. And that significant event is the graduation of our basic military training airmen. Every Friday, over 600 airmen graduate from BMT. And exactly 3 years ago, I had the distinct honor to go down to Lackland Air Force Base and be the presiding officer for a BMT graduation. A day earlier, my command chief and I got to go there early in the morning and participate in what they call the Airman's Run. Every flight runs in formation on a 1.5 or 2 mile run, and it culminates at a stadium where there are parents, family members, loved ones there to greet all of the trainees as they cross the finish line. And then once they've crossed the finish line, all of the airmen all the trainees get into formation. And that is the first time when their military training instructor then gives them the Airman's Coin, where for the first time they are no longer referred to as trainees, and they have now earned the title Airman in the world's greatest Air Force. The next day on a Friday morning is when they graduate on the parade field. And like I said, on the day that I was there, there were over 660 graduates, and between 800 and 900 folks that were in the stadium, fans in stands, who consisted of parents, brothers and sisters, cousins, girlfriends, boyfriends, loved ones, friends, all there to root on their graduate. The training group there gives each presiding officer some talking points that you can or don't have to necessarily use, but they do ask every presiding officer to do at least one thing, and that is to thank all of these graduates' parents for allowing them, these new airmen, to join our family. And that ever since that moment, I've constantly thought about this responsibility that we all shared to treat every one of these airmen and take care of every one of these airmen as if they were our family members. And I think it's noteworthy to think about this during our Combined Ops Day, because our enlisted personnel they are the backbone of the United States Air Force as well as the U.S. Space Force. In the Air Force alone, our enlisted personnel make up 80% of the active duty force. And our national defense strategy talks about how in the future we need to be able to outthink, outsmart, out-innovate, and out-partner our adversaries. Without a doubt, our asymmetric advantage is our people. And I would argue that what makes our people and what makes our force the greatest force in the planet is the quality of our enlisted force. You see, our enlisted force are distinct from all other militaries, in my belief, in three ways. The first is all of them are volunteers. We do not have any conscripts in the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. Space Force. Number two, they are smart, well-trained, and educated. And number three, they're empowered. They're empowered like no other military on the planet. And with that comes this responsibility for me and all of you, our senior non-commissioned officers, our junior officers, our civilian airmen. We have this responsibility now to take care of them as if they are part of our family. And we all know that this is not an individual sport, that we're in a team sport. And in that team sport, for our junior officers, we get to rely on the expertise of our senior non-commissioned officers. And I think that's what makes this day so special. And my ask for all of you on this event-driven day, to use this as an opportunity to ask all those questions that you've always had or haven't been able to get answered, and then to actively listen to everyone's responses and the dialogue that you have. My challenge for all of you would be to not let this be the only time that you come together and have this type of interaction and dialogue. And then for all the junior officers that are participating today, my recommendation to you would be that if you have the privilege and honor to serve with an NCOIC or a section chief or a flight chief, that you need to make sure that there's no air between you as you move forward. You see, those responsibilities that we have within our military institutions of taking care of our people and their families, of executing the mission, of improving the unit, those are all things that you don't have to do in isolation, that you can do in this team concept. Our senior NCOs, I think, are especially valuable because in their enlisted force structure handbook, or the Brown Book as I've always known it, it tells you that their primary focus is mission accomplishment, just like it is for a squadron commander. And they also have some specific responsibilities, two of which that I would like to highlight, and that is to help leaders make informed decisions. And they have this other responsibility to deliberately develop not just enlisted personnel, but our company grade officers. So with that, I think this is a great opportunity to see our senior NCOs in action. And I wish you all the best and continued success as you move forward.